Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Hewins. If you've attended admission sessions before, you've seen me already. You know me. I'm the Assistant Director for Graduate Admissions. With me today, I am joined by Phoebe. Phoebe, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phoebe Snyder. I am the Graduate Community and Experience Specialist. So I work with y'all during your time here as a grad student. I help try to bring the community together and just make your experience as a grad student well-rounded, academically and otherwise. And I'm just gonna keep the introductions going. Avery?
Hi, I'm Avery Allen. I am in the graphic design MFA, the 2-year program, and I also work at the Center for Arts and Language.
All right. Olivier, is that how you say your name?
Yes, that's correct. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivier Mbabazi, and I am in the Masters of Arts in Global Arts and Cultures. I work at A&L as well for V1, which is the student publication, but also I'm a grad assistant for Eric Anderson in the Department of uh, um, History of Art and Design. Yeah.
Right. Taylor, you're next on my screen.
Okay. Hi, I'm Taylor Thomas. I'm in the Master of Architecture program and in the 3-year program, and I just started, so I'm fairly new to RISD. But yeah.
Thank you, Taylor. Lastly,
I think I'm last. Hi, I'm Iz. I'm a second year painter. It's a 2-year program, so I'm in my last year. And I think that's pretty much all I can say for now.
Perfect. Awesome. Since two of you work in the Center for Arts and Language, I'm just going to drop a link to that in the chat. It's a great resource for graduate students. I believe they help you with the written component between the intersection of arts and language and the thesis. They help with the writing of the thesis. So there's some more information there. But like I said, this is an open Q&A, so feel free to start typing your questions in now. But first, I'll kick it off with some starter questions. Feel free, whoever feels comfortable answering this, but what originally drew you to RISD?
I think I might as well start. Well, I think it's like the rigorousness of the program, specifically for painting, but also generally the MFA students seem to be like really in their whatever their area of study is. So for Masters of Fine Arts students and sort of like the fine art disciplines, we have like really rigorous studio practices here, and I knew that coming in. I think they have like a funny thing. Some professors say this funny thing about RISD, which is like it stands for like something about like sleeplessness, like that you're always going and always moving. And I really wanted like a really intensive program where I felt like in community with other people. And that was kind of what drew me, and was like the small cohort size and the like amount of classes we take and how much feedback that we get. And it did not disappoint.
That's awesome. Great. Thanks, Sis.
Yeah, I can kind of piggyback off of that. Definitely like the rigorous nature, the graphic design program in particular is not only very making focused, but writing focused as well. And so, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to make and talk about your work and really like get at like why you make the way you do. And then also the opportunity to teach during winter session was something that I was really interested in, and something that I wanted out of a grad experience. And so RISD offers that for students who go through the application process during winter session.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Absolutely. And I can build on that and say, when I graduated from college in 2022, by the way, I studied fine arts and French for my undergrad, so I double majored. And after that, I did a project that took me to different countries, looking at how different artists use their work to process trauma, but also build reconciliation. It was for a whole year. So after that, I was really struck by seeing how different people use art to sort of like engage in dialogue and community building. And I was like, where can I go to sort of like expand on this dialogue? And I Googled like global arts or something of the sort. And RISD emerged. And I was like, wait a minute, global arts and cultures. That sounds like something I would love to be part of. So I reached out to the department and they said, oh, it sounds like what you're interested in would be really a good fit for this program. And that's how I ended up here. And I just started this fall, but it's been wonderful to sort of like work with different people from different departments, but also look at how, whether it's in graphic design or painting, just being here is wonderful. But essentially, that's how I ended up here.
Great. Thank you, Olivier.
Absolutely.
I think for architecture, it's like I have a little bit of a different story, I guess, because like a lot of the architecture schools that I was looking at were very like they didn't have a lot of room for me to like be as creative as I wanted to. I feel like um I don't know. I heard about RISD from my professor when I was a junior, kind of starting to look at grad schools. And he had gone to RISD, so I was like, okay, like I'll look into it. Like I'm from South Carolina, and I hadn't heard really about RISD or know that they had like an architecture program. So looked into that and I was like, yeah, I'll apply. Yeah, and it has been amazing. And that's how I ended up here.
Fantastic. That's great, Taylor. Thank you. All right. I'll start off with some of the questions that are coming in. First question. As somebody who is passionate about ecology and art, they're curious about how your experience at RISD has supported your ability to pursue interdisciplinary disciplines. Anyone want to take that?
I think it really just depends on what program you're in, because here disciplines are very different. Like the amount of time that you have to take classes outside of your discipline really just depends on the program that you're in. But I would say from a fine art perspective, and what I'm kind of like hearing from other people that I know, is that you know, being at RISD is really about like creating your practice and your community and your worldview. So if that is something that you're interested in, it will probably be like kind of very organically moving through the things that you're making already. And so there'll be opportunities for you to kind of pursue whatever interests that you have that are interdisciplinary through feedback with your professors and creating community with you know, we have Brown really close by, and there's the nature lab here, which is like really incredible. And so even if it's not ecology that is your main focus, whatever that is, there's going to be opportunities to meet people that are also interested in those things and might be able to support you in that way. And it might not just be in like classes, but it could also be sort of like naturally built through your own personal channels as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Liz. Anybody else want to, if you've had experience yet doing some interdisciplinary work here?
Well, I'm still new, so I wouldn't say that we've already ventured into that, but I would say just to sort of like add on what Izzy just said, like in classes or going to events, these are like great opportunities for me so far to connect with um, students in other departments, but also begin to have these conversations, which I think will be, or even so far have been a foundation for potential collaborations or, because like, for example, I'm taking a course, Conversations in Contemporary Art, with students from the painting department and other departments. And from there, you get to hear about potential classes that you can take or an interesting professor or an event going on there. And I think this is like one of those places where there is a chance to begin to think about that, but also like, I guess, take action in terms of like interdisciplinary initiatives.
Yeah, I was trying to think what examples I had. It's really easy to make connections with other students and like foster collaboration across disciplines that way. Um, One example is I am currently in a class called Typographic Multiverse within the graphic design department, but our graphic design studios are right next door to the textile studios. And so organically, sorry, my cat is pushing up against my screen. Organically, we've just made connections with people in textiles, and we were able to work with someone there, my collaborator and I in that class, where they translated something that we designed digitally into a jacquard woven blanket. And so seeing that realized in fabric and through the jacquard was a lot different. And I got to learn a lot about like different weave structures and how maybe like think about that more like spatially and through texture. Um, and that was a really cool experience for me. Yeah.
That's great. All right. So this is a good question. This person has a bachelor's degree in a different field from the one that they're applying to. Is it common, or do you see fellow classmates who come from other backgrounds? Do you see that often? Yeah, perfect. That's great. Yeah, if you've attended some of our faculty panels, faculty will just say that people coming from different backgrounds add a different perspective. So it doesn't make you, this person's asking specifically on their chances of being admitted. It doesn't hurt your chances. It's just, but they're building these small cohorts, and just whether or not like your perspective is going to work with that small cohort that they're building. All right. This is a great question. We get this all the time. How do you balance schoolwork and personal art in your program? If that's something that you're trying to do right now.
I would say it again, I would love to know what you're applying to, because I think this probably differs for my fellow peers in this. But as a painter or like any other fine arts, your personal art is also the practice that you're working with here. So I guess sometimes people have like little side hustles or something like that, but I think for myself, there's not time to make things outside of the things that I'm making in here, but it's all interwoven. It's not separate at all. I don't know if anyone else in like architecture or something else if you have any different kind of experiences.
Yeah, so I think like I tried to at like I had a like summer intensive course before this fall started, and I tried to keep up doing some like different projects for myself, but for me it was just I became so like consumed into my schoolwork, and that was kind of just for me kind of had to like put that on pause for a little bit, but the instructors do a really good job at like letting you be able to bring your own like interests and different um like whatever you want to put into the project, they're there to support you and to help you like really hone in on that and really try to get like exactly what you want out of your project. So it's nice to still be able to like, you still get to have like your own, it's just like in a different type of way, I feel like.
Excellent. Thank you, Taylor.
And I would say for me, I'm still trying to find that balance, honestly, because it just started in September. And it's been tricky because on one hand, my program is theory based, so it's not a studio sort of like it's a master's in art, unlike my colleagues here who are in MFAs. Um, so that has been a little bit tricky, but nevertheless, I've been trying to make conscious effort to attend events or set aside time to make art because I make art as well. I love making art. I think I needed to stay sane and I guess do the work. So whenever I get a chance, when the weather is sunny, it's been raining today and it's getting colder, is I try to go out and make sketches, and I've attended a series of a few events like Geometry of Uncertainty, and I get a chance to show some of the sculptures that I've been working on, small scale sculptures. But I would say overall, it's still work in progress, but I'm glad because there is a chance to sort of like over the weekend or when I don't have classes on certain days to sit down and make sketches and just enjoy being here. But definitely it's a work in progress. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. I do see a lot of portfolio questions for the application, which are great, but this session's focused specifically on the student experience here at RISD. We just dropped a link in the chat. We have a number of faculty panels where we will be talking about the portfolio requirement, admissions webinars talking about the portfolio, and portfolio review days. So there's plenty of opportunities to get feedback and ask questions about your portfolio, but today's session will be focused specifically on the student experience here. All right, we'll dive back in. All right. Right, for those that are working in the Center for Arts and Language, are there, or anybody, are there any favorite student publications you read or are part of? This person's super into student-run zines and journals, and they're curious if you have any favorites. Or anybody who wants to answer this question.
Well, I
Maybe,
would say, go ahead, Jack.
no,
Sorry.
I know there's the V1
Yeah, exactly.
published. I can drop a link for that as well, but feel free, Olivier.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about because I'm an editor at V1, one of the newly joined editor. And it's just fun. It's great, and I think this year we're trying to um, make some changes. We're trying to make like some special issues and edition, which are going to combine different forms of publications. But overall, like the team is great. We have good support from Jen Lies, who is our supervisor, um, and yeah, I think I would suggest that you check out the link and see some of the previous issues. It's just a wonderful place, and we accept submissions from anyone who has an idea or who would like to contribute. Everyone is welcome. So it's such a wonderful place to sort of like try to tell stories about what's happening on campus, and yeah, it's a wonderful place.
All right. I see that there's questions going into the chat and to the Q&A. If you can just put them in the Q&A and make sure I can answer them in order and I'm not missing anybody. All right, let's see here. This is a great question. Do you feel any restrictions on the work that you're able to make in your specified programs? There's a lot of questions within this question, so we'll start with that one first.
For painting and definitely a lot of the fine arts disciplines, we're working in the expanded field. So you are open to bring whatever in and make in whatever way feels like it works for you. I think it in my cohort, people are very dedicated to painting. So there are a lot of paintings happening. But for instance, I have a background in performance art and video and writing and sculpture, and I do all of those things here. And I see my peers also kind of dabble in those other things. I think sculpture particularly has people that do like a bunch of different things, like whatever you could think of. And glass even. The glass people are always doing like the craziest, coolest stuff. Yeah.
All right. All right, this is a good question. And perhaps some of you have just started, so you may not have experienced this yet, but what responsibilities and opportunities are available to grad students to get involved? They're specifying teaching, research, or mentorship.
Do you know if the question is about them offering mentorship or receiving mentorship?
I don't know, they didn't specify, but I would guess your ability as a student to maybe either teach a class or,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say I've been fairly involved within my year plus at RISD, and it's been really great. I've been able to do some work, for example, with Phoebe and Amy with graduate studies, where I got to do design work for these tote bags for graduate studies. I work at the Center for Arts and Language, so I feel very involved with like others in the student body and able to like see the work and writing that they're doing and engage with that, which is really great. There's also just a lot of like talks and lecture series within the school. Um, and yeah, like teaching winter session is one option of a way to get involved more directly. You can pitch like a self-design course or take or teach a departmental course too if you work that out with your department head. And then a lot of cases too, you also TA. And so within your departments, like I'm a TA for Design Studio 1 with sophomore graphic design students right now, and am able to like offer mentorship and guidance along with the professor who's teaching that, which is really great.
Awesome, thank you, Aubrey.
I'm going to be teaching a winter session as well. And that was kind of like a process we had to go through to apply and stuff like that. But that's a really exciting opportunity. And as painters, and I think most of the fine arts disciplines, we TA every semester and we get a stipend as a part of that, which is really awesome because it gives you a little bit of grocery money. But the one thing that I would say about opportunities to engage at RISD is that there's more opportunities than you could ever take advantage of. So it's actually sometimes more about picking and choosing what you have time for than it is about looking for more things to take on, which is definitely one of like the best things about being here is that because it's an art and design school, there's like everything at your fingertips. And there's always like a lot of opportunities that unfortunately you don't have time for and you have to say no. But if you have specific things, you should seek those out because they're definitely there for you.
Great, perfect. All right, let's see here. I'm looking between the chat and the Q&A, but I have a general question that nobody's asked yet. Have any of you experienced cross-registering at Brown yet? We have a person who's interested in pursuing continuing their studies in French. And while RISD, to my knowledge, doesn't offer any language classes, there are opportunities to cross-register at Brown. Anybody have experience with that?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
the thing I
Oh,
would,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, sometimes I would say there's not like a lot of electives that we have. So I think I would decide if that was something that you really want to continue right now, or if it's something that you can pursue after this, like getting a master's degree, because there's just so few credits in the 2 years. But sorry, Avery, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I took a class at Brown in the spring, and depending on the department, that might look different of like what your department head allows. Because I know a lot of times, like the idea of cross-registering at Brown is also to like feed back into your work and your practice. And so for me, I was able to take like a seminar course, and it has been like directly relating to my practice and has really like bolstered a lot of like the research that's going into what I'm making right now. So I would just also maybe if you have the opportunity to ask your department or like the department head if you have an interview or anything like that about like that specific question. Because I think, yeah, it varies department to department about like what kinds of classes you would be able to register for too. But it's a great resource of taking classes at Brown, and you also have access to their library research resources, which is really great.
Awesome. Thank you both.
Oh, can I add something, Jen, if you don't mind? And speaking of like courses, there is also RISD Global, which is an opportunity to take a winter course abroad. So I think that's, I'm not sure if that's something that Jen, you had sort of like reserved for later, but I think I should just drop it in the conversation because I think it's a, yeah, in addition to Brown, I think that's also another great opportunity to sort of like expand where you can learn and from whom and how. I mean, it's just great. Yeah.
Yeah, what makes RISD semester structure unique is that we do have a required winter session. So whether you you teach a self-designed winter session course, you take courses here at RISD, or you can do the RISD Global option. You can travel abroad. All right, let's see here. This is a question about where most of the grad students live. If you feel comfortable answering, do you or most of your classmates live off campus, and how hard is it to find housing, especially housing that's pet friendly?
I think most people that I know live off campus. I don't know anyone that lives on campus, to be honest. I would say Providence. I've lived here for 4 years now, so it is definitely a word of mouth city. It's easier to find things once you're here. But I don't think people have too hard of a problem finding roommates, finding pet friendly options, finding options close to campus. I would say like most of the East Coast, it's probably like I was coming from Pittsburgh before this, so I was kind of shocked at the prices. And we're in a time where everything's expensive. So, I think that is a good thing to look into is like how much rent is going to cost in the city that you're thinking of applying to. But I would say I don't hear too many stories of it being that difficult. And I think trying to find roommates from RISD is also like a really great option of keeping costs down, and maybe you have like 3 cats instead of 1 cat too. So
Great. And I can add a little bit to the housing. There is a limited amount of housing available for graduate students. Those are in the 15 West building, and they're studio style apartments. If that's something that you want to pursue, that's something you would want to reach out to Res Life pretty early on from being admitted, because those options do are pretty popular and will go quickly since there is a limited number. But as is mentioned, most of our grad students live off campus. And with us being so close to Brown, Providence College, there are a ton of buildings dedicated just to student rentals. So it's not uncommon for RISD and Brown students to live together as well. And there's platforms from Res Life that will help you find roommates and apartments.
can I add one thing before you move on? I think another amazing thing that RISD has is RISD rides. So from 5 p.m. to 3 a.m., you can take a door-to-door ride that's basically like an Uber. So it makes living off campus incredibly accessible for those of us that do. There is sort of like an epicenter, so you can't go past a certain range. But for anyone that wants to know where most people live, it's Fox Point, College Hill, Wayland Square sometimes, downtown, and Federal Hill are all great options.
Perfect. Great. I'm going to be diving into some more questions that are graduate studio and academic experience ones. How does the critique and feedback differ from what you at RISD from what you've experienced in your undergrad? If you experienced that.
I went to Carnegie Mellon for undergrad, and I was an art student. So I would say that critique is not super different from art school to art school. I'm not sure about if you didn't go to an art school for undergrad or like a liberal arts school. I honestly would say critique is kind of fine art critique is pretty similar anywhere you go. One of the things that I think is pretty special about the painting department and some of the other departments for the MFAs is that We get studio visits, we get midterms, and we get critiques with our peers as well. So midterms is sort of the main thing that like feels like this dramatic grad school experience that we all look forward to. And then we also look forward to our studio visits with like acclaimed artists that come and give talks, and we get to have one-on-one visits with them too. So there's a lot of different styles of critique in the fine arts department.
Thank you, Liz. Perfect. This is a good question. Can any of you describe or give examples of how RISD has changed or improved your practice?
I'm sorry to be talking so much. I hate silence. So someone please jump in. But I think the thing that I'm most grateful for is my cohort. I think that has been like the best part of the experience and working with people. I'm in my studio right now, but I have like peers and all the doors around me, and I can hear them right now. Like we're always all around each other. And so I think coming in with like a positive attitude and really looking to meet people and be in conversation with people has just been like the best thing that I could have gotten. And I guess because it's so intensive, I can also see tangible kind of like technical things in my practice have improved a lot, and like ways of thinking, just because we're in conversation with each other so much, and also we're spending so much time making things. So inevitably you get better just by making a lot of things too. I don't know if that's super specific, but
I think to build off of that also, just being around so many people that love what they're doing and want to get better, and like just being in that type of environment really, like, whether you notice it during the process or not, you kind of look back and you're like, wow, like just being able to actually like everyone grow together, and like it really pushes you, not necessarily in like a competition way, but like just as a wanting to learn and grow together. Like I definitely feel like I've seen a improvement already, like just in my practice.
Fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, I think working quickly is like one way that my practice has changed a lot, just because it is so fast paced. And my undergrad BFA was very open-ended, so we had like a lot of self-directed work, whereas like at least in the graphic design program, it is a very like prompted first year. And I think I struggled with that at first, but like in retrospect, now that I am in a more open-ended phase again, I did make a lot of work that I wouldn't have made otherwise, and has taken me in a more interesting direction, I think. Um, so yeah, I think that has changed my practice for sure.
Yeah, and it's for me like being in global arts and cultures because I have interest in all of these sort of like disciplines. It is great, like my peers said, to be surrounded by individuals who are deeply passionate and working a lot. So inspirational and and I should also say that we have very supportive community. I've been saying this a lot. It's so fascinating because everywhere you turn, at least that has been my experience. So let me not generalize. Although I think it's true because when I speak to my peers or my colleagues and friends, it's same. Faculty very helpful. Everyone trying to make life easy in terms of like understanding where to find resources. How to better use available opportunities. I just saw someone who said how easy to get fellowships. So I feel like the environment is really geared to make our experiences great. And I think that's something that makes me very grateful, but also happy and look forward to doing the work that I'm doing here. So yes, it's a combination of all these factors that really make life easier and enjoyable.
Great. This is a great question, and I'm assuming this differs between the different divisions, and you're all representing the different divisions here. This person would like to know more detail about your schedules and your workload week by week. What time do classes meet every week, and how much time do you spend in your studio outside of classes and other endeavors for class? They just want to have an idea of what your life is like as a student.
I take 4 classes, which are each about 5 hours long. And then I TA a class. So that's 5 classes total, I think. And then we're pretty much expected to spend the rest of the time in our studios. So I would say I have 25 hours of class a week. And then I probably spend, to be quite honest with you, 40 hours in my studio a week. So that's kind of how that goes. If you have a job, like some people have jobs too, like on campus. There's one person in my cohort who has an off-campus job. But for the most part, other than that, we're all working very diligently in our studios.
And just to elaborate on that real quick, if you could also speak to like what time are your classes usually?
Oh, okay. I have class in the afternoon from 1 to 6 most days. And that is kind of my schedule this semester. But in the past, I've had back-to-back classes, so 8 to 1, 1:10 to 6:10. And that makes for a pretty long day. But so I like having them all on different days personally. I don't know if different disciplines have different amounts of time that their classes are, but we meet once a week per class, and it's that 5-hour time slot in the fine arts department.
Yeah, my classes are mostly 1 to 6, and my schedule is pretty much very similar to Iz's, where I have the 4 classes. One of them is like 11 to 4, and that's the only difference. But otherwise, I TA, so I have a 5th class. I also work at A&L, which is about 4 hours. And then, yeah, the rest of that time is a lot of it is spent working or being in the studio. I would say it's really not uncommon to have like 11, 12-hour days, like very consistently. More recently, I found that it's a lot easier for me to wake up really early in the morning, even if that's like 5 in the morning, and then working and then going to class afterward. So I'm not like working after my class, and I have like a lot of time to do that beforehand and like yeah, not be exhausted from a 5-hour class when I'm doing my work. So that's one way that I've been structuring my time this year that I think is like working a lot better. But yeah, very long days.
I also take 4 classes. 2 of them are lecture classes that are 3 hours long. And yeah, 3 hours long. And so I have my architecture studio, which meets twice a week, Monday, Thursday, from 1:10 to 6. And then Tuesday and Wednesday I have a lecture, and then Friday I have a 1 to 6 class that meets once a week. But yeah, other times I'm just in studio. I try to get there like earlier in the morning so that I don't have to stay late after studio.
And I take 3 classes, 2 seminars. 2 actually are today on Monday. So one is from 9:40 to 12:40, and the other one is from 1:10 to from 1:10 to 4:10 p.m. And then my third class is on Wednesday from 9:30 to, oh, hang on, I said, okay. Yes. Yes, it's on Wednesday from 1:10 to 4:10 as well. And in addition to that, I work 4 hours at A&L at V1, and then for 9 hours as a research assistant for Professor Eric Anderson. And the good thing about those 9 hours is that he's allowed to sort of like um, he lets me have a flexible schedule to sort of like make sure that it can fit into my own schedule, so I don't have to stress about the structure, which is great. So yeah, that's about my schedule.
That's great.
And I
Awesome.
want to add one caveat because we're all talking about being really busy. I know this has been touched on about like the community aspect of many of our departments, but that like stands very true of like it is a lot, but it feels a lot better because you have your classmates, and like my cohort is very close and we get along very well. And so even if you have like a late night in the studio, I think generally like the culture in the RISD departments is one of like a lot of communal uh yeah, bonding. And so it is not horrible.
Perfect, thank you. All right, let's see here. Mm, okay. Avery, this one's specific for you. For graphic design, how big are the classes and what are the experiences with professors in terms of mentorship and feedback?
My studio and like thesis classes, like in the actual department with our department head and faculty, are 16 students. And then outside of that, the classes range, but they typically are around like 15 students. I think so. They're pretty small classes. Um, and then for what was the other part of the question? The engagement or like feedback that you get?
Let me scroll back down. Let's see here. Mm, mm, mm. I think I just resolved the question.
I can,
Mm, mm, mm.
oh, here we go. What are the experiences with professors in terms of mentorship and feedback? Um, I think it's been positive, and I think it's like really up to the individual student in a lot of these cases to like seek out that feedback and mentorship. You do get dedicated time in like most class days where you are getting feedback. And I think the feedback I do get is generally helpful, and it varies depending on the professor and your personality. Of course, I like some professors' feedback more than others, but I will say in general, the graphic design faculty are very friendly, very warm, very happy to meet with you outside of classes. And um, yeah, I think I've had like a very good experience with the faculty in my department. And you also get a lot of feedback from your classmates as well, which is great.
Perfect. Right. This is a good question. This, goes into people preparing for graduate study. How do you go about acquiring and purchasing supplies? This person wants to know, does RISD provide a lot of those supplies, or is a lot of that on the student?
In my experience, you purchase everything that you want to be using as a fine arts student. I think some people, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure if you're like a low income student or something, you get a $500 materials budget I think. But for the most part, we're spending our own money on our supplies.
That's great. There is a 2D store and a 3D store on campus, so there is accessibility with getting materials that you need. And as is mentioned, there are programs available to help people bridge that gap and to get some additional funding for supplies as well. This is a great question. How available are the professors outside of class? Is it common that they have office hours?
In my case, I would say they've been pretty available, but you have to schedule, you sort of like have to reach out because it can get very busy. But yes, they're very, it's possible and they're very helpful. Yes.
Specifically in the painting department, most of our professors live in New York, so they're very available in the time that they're here. But you do have to really be delicate about their time and like very respectful of their time. So kind of like figuring out times that work for them ahead of when you want to meet is like the best way to do it. And also kind of like recognizing that sometimes our professors are traveling a really far distance and are like excited to be here when they're here, but they're also making things and have practices outside of being teachers, which is again like one of the best things about going to RISD. So yeah, they're very open to meet, but you also have to be respectful as well.
Great. All right, let's see here. This is an interesting question, and you can take this however way you want. Is there anything you wish you knew before starting a master's program?
I think I wish I had really figured out if I needed it now, because I think that it is like a one-time opportunity. And I'm really like, I feel so lucky that I got in here and that I get to be here. But I am kind of questioning sometimes like, oh, if I had waited a few more years, would I have gotten more out of this experience? Or like, yeah, and I think those are kind of like what ifs, you know, like you never know how life is going to go. So I think I probably did do it at the right time. But that's really the only thing for me is just like, oh, I wish maybe I had considered what I wanted to be gaining from this experience instead of just kind of like, I think sometimes we apply to grad school, especially for Masters of Fine Arts degrees, because everything in our life, like there's something in your life that goes wrong. And so you're like, this is why I should do it now. And it's just kind of like a random thing as to why you choose it when you choose it. So I think thinking about what you want from the experience is really helpful when you're trying to decide where you want to apply and what you want out of the program. I don't think that I had really considered that a lot, and I just got really lucky.
Fantastic. Really great insight.
I was gonna say just how fast paced it is. Like I feel like I was prepared and like had an understanding of that or was like equipped to do that with my background. But it is like very, very fast paced in the graphic design program once you get into um like the first graduate studio. Um, and so I think just being prepared for that and like making sure you have support systems and uh other things in mind.
Okay, well, for me, I'll say two things. One, I'll say, so when I graduated in 2022, I immediately went into an MFA in Canada, and it turned out that it was really a bad idea on my end. So I take accountability for that. So I ended up leaving that MFA in the end. So I'll say, just to what Easy said, I think I mean, like I thought about it and I was like, I should have taken some time off. So that's one. And two, now that I'm here at RISD, I will say that, yeah, stressing because being at such a competitive school like RISD, I came in a few months ago, like with so much pressure. But as I've been here in conversation with professors and those who've been here for quite some time, just like chatting about things, I think I should have not put so much pressure on my shoulder saying like, oh my God, I have to do everything, because that can become unrealistic. But I will say, yeah, those are like two things I knew sort of like thought about. But yeah.
Really great question. All right, this is a good one. How safe and seen do you feel with faculty and within your department in the current state of world events and politics going on, especially if that's something that you include in your work?
I think it's like again, that's so specific to department. So if you should definitely go to whatever department sessions there are. But in my department, our faculty are very political and outspoken, and very respectful and responsible with the way that they're speaking in terms of our work. And I think that's like an ongoing thing that we all need to improve on, making people feel safe and especially like critique environments. But I do think that those discussions are happening in my department. So it for me, I don't feel fearful ever in showing my work. And I would say personally, I'm dealing with like American landscape painting. So it comes up a lot in my studio. And I never feel like any sort of hatefulness or anything like that. I feel like everybody's here to support me. And like I'm engaging in those conversations with good faith, and so are they.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Alright.
I think in the graphic design department too, like our department head has explicitly said like she will never censor. Obviously, there have been situations where maybe a student is kind of teetering a line where something might not be okay, and they have like had conversations with a student if that's ever happened. And so I think I feel good in my department about like if things do come up, even if their intention is always like good, they're not coming from a malicious place. I have personally seen how like when something again that like maybe crosses that line a little bit is like handled very immediately and very quickly. And then in terms of like just making overtly political work, again, like it's been explicitly stated, like you will not be censored for any kind of like political progressive work that you make. And a lot of students make very critical publications or very critical work. And yeah, I've never seen anyone receive negative comments or feedback about the content.
Great insight.
Yes, that's really one of the reason I feel happy to be here because the discourse is very open and transparent, and that makes a huge difference, especially looking at global arts and cultures, because the conversations can become a little bit intense and people don't want to engage, or certain sort of like fears or like concerns to engage with certain ideas. But really, it's been great to see the willingness and actually the encouragement to sort of like push us to think beyond these sort of like contentious subjects or even concerning subjects. So it's something that is truly good to witness and be part of. Yeah.
Perfect. Right, where I can't believe this was like the fastest hour I've ever done a webinar this fall. There's a great question here that I think is a great way to close out this session. What has been your favorite memory at RISD so far? And I know you're all coming from different stages in your RISD career. So it could just be, has made an impression on you so far.
A moment comes to mind at the end of our last semester. Like, it was a pretty rough semester for a lot of us, and a lot of us had stayed up very late working toward our final critique. And we had like a super long all day critique for all of us. And then afterward, I just remember like walking out with my classmates outside of CIT, and we all went and ate like at a nearby restaurant afterward. And just like that feeling of like being exhausted, but we're all like really excited, and like the celebratory uh yeah, feeling amongst us was really nice.
I think mine is pretty similar. I think that like my favorite memories from here are always like being around my peers, and whether it's like going to get a drink or hanging out at someone's house or something like that. But I think like the most spectacular day that I've had here was with Angela Dufresne, and she took us to New York, and she took us to like, it was a 12-hour day of going into so many artist studios, and we ended with Dana Schutz's studio, and she had gotten us, we hadn't had time to eat the whole day, and she had gotten us pizza, and like the relief of eating a piece of pizza in a football-sized studio was like so crazy, and seeing her work, and I just felt like that would have never happened to me if I was not here. So I just felt like very grateful in that moment to have that opportunity.
Very cool.
I think my favorite is just like getting thrown in to like this environment with all my peers at the same time that are like everyone's coming from different backgrounds. Nobody knows each other. And like over the summer we had like a 6-week 9 to 5 chunk of classes, and just like knowing that we're all in it together and we all like are new here and like just getting to know everybody really quickly. I feel like I know these people like so much better than I should after like 5 months. Yeah.
And for me, I would say early in the semester, actually, Phoebe and grad peers, they organized an event and took us to the RISD beach somewhere. Phoebe, I don't remember how to say the name. Is it Tilhangast? Please.
It's the Tillinghast Beach. So
Tillinghast.
RISD has a private beach that we can use that grad studies, my office puts events on there, but continue, Olivier.
I mean, yes, that's it. I mean, it was great to sort of like go with other grad students before the semester started and everybody got lost in the studio. That was really great to get to connect and sort of like exchange contact and get to know each other. That was lovely.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right, we are just about out of time at this point. I dropped a very important link in the chat. I saw there was a lot of department-specific questions. There will be opportunities to ask those questions during our online open house. We will be having a 1-hour dedicated session for each of our 18 graduate degree programs. Those sessions are hosted by the graduate program directors, the faculty within the department. And in many cases, there will be students within the department attending those sessions as well. I encourage you to find your programs of interest and sign up now. Along with all of our other admissions events, there were lots of portfolio questions. You can ask those at our portfolio tips webinars we have coming up this fall. But yeah, there's plenty of opportunities to learn more and ask your questions. But hopefully you found this session particularly helpful. It was recorded, so if you'd like to get a recording of that, feel free to email me at admissions@risd.edu. But with that, I would like to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you for our panelists, Phoebe, for taking the time to share your insight and your experience at RISD. And with that, I just want to wish everybody a good night or good morning or wherever you're signing on from. But yeah, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. All right.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good night.